Now, there has been a noticeable change in the way some people are talking about Claressa Shields. After previously being critical of her, one commentator has now taken a much more supportive position, arguing that Claressa deserves to be viewed differently because of what she has accomplished in boxing. The main argument is that the ongoing situation involving Papoose and Remy Ma should not determine how people judge Claressa's career as an athlete. Whatever opinions people may have about her personal life or the controversy surrounding her, her accomplishments inside the ring are a separate matter. Claressa is an Olympian, a highly accomplished professional boxer, and someone who has remained a major name in women's boxing for years. From that perspective, the argument is that her achievements deserve recognition regardless of the personal drama surrounding her. There was also an important point about representation. When successful Black women achieve major things professionally, there is often a call for their accomplishments to be celebrated and for young girls to have strong examples to look up to. But at the same time, those same public figures can face intense criticism when their personal behavior becomes controversial. The commentator even acknowledged being part of that criticism before, essentially admitting that the way Claressa had been viewed previously may have been too harsh. The message going forward was that her boxing career should receive more respect and that the focus should be placed on what she has accomplished professionally. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with someone changing their opinion. People can look at new information, reconsider their position, and decide that they were too critical before. However, that's where I believe the argument needs some clarification. My criticism of Claressa has never been about her being a Black woman. Her race has nothing to do with the standards I apply to her behavior.
If Claressa were white, Hispanic, Asian, or any other race and behaved the same way online, in interviews, or during public controversies, I would have the exact same criticism. That's the distinction that often gets lost in conversations like this. Supporting Black excellence does not mean ignoring questionable behavior, and criticizing someone's actions does not automatically mean opposing their success or their identity. Claressa can be an accomplished Olympian, a talented boxer, and an important figure in women's sports, while still being open to criticism when it comes to her public actions. Both things can be true at the same time. So for me, the issue isn't whether Claressa deserves recognition for what she has accomplished in boxing. She absolutely does. For me, the issue isn't whether Claressa deserves recognition for what she has accomplished in boxing. She absolutely does. The real question is whether people can celebrate her professional achievements while still holding her to the same standard of accountability they would apply to anyone else. There have been several public discussions criticizing Claressa in the past, and the criticism wasn't necessarily about her abilities as a boxer. A lot of it focused on the way she presents herself publicly and whether she sometimes puts more attention on celebrity culture and personal drama than on her career in the ring. That opinion has clearly changed for some people, and there's nothing wrong with reconsidering your position. People are allowed to see a situation differently as time goes on. What I don't agree with, however, is suggesting that everyone else is wrong simply because Claressa is an important name in women's boxing. Nobody is taking away her accomplishments. She's an Olympian, she's achieved a lot professionally, and her work deserves recognition. But acknowledging those achievements doesn't mean people have to ignore everything else that has happened publicly.
A major reason the conversation became so complicated is the amount of attention surrounding her relationship with Papoose. If the two of them had wanted complete privacy, they could have chosen to keep much of their relationship away from social media and public discussions. Remy Ma initially brought the situation into the public spotlight, but after that, Claressa and Papoose still had choices about how they wanted to handle it. They could have kept their relationship private while the divorce situation was being resolved, avoided discussing each other publicly, and simply allowed the legal process to play out. If they had done that, the public conversation probably would have looked very different. Instead, the relationship has repeatedly appeared in interviews, social media posts, public comments, and other moments that naturally attract attention. Once personal matters are repeatedly discussed in public, it's difficult to expect everyone else to completely ignore them. That's not about creating drama, it's about responding to what has already been placed in the public conversation. And then there's the argument that because Claressa had a major fight in Atlanta, everyone should suddenly stop discussing the controversy surrounding her. I don't really understand that logic. Her accomplishments inside the ring deserve recognition, but one successful event doesn't automatically erase every other public moment that people have already discussed. There have also been various reports and online discussions about confrontations, disagreements with other athletes, and comments involving Remy. Those claims should be treated carefully and verified before being presented as established facts, but it's understandable that public behavior can become part of the conversation when someone is constantly in the spotlight. If another public figure behaved similarly, entertainment commentators would probably discuss those moments too.
that doesn't automatically make the criticism racist, nor does it mean anyone is denying Claressa's identity or achievements.
The key distinction is simple. You can celebrate someone's accomplishments while still criticizing their public behavior. Claressa deserves credit for what she has accomplished as an athlete, but being an accomplished Olympian doesn't mean she's above criticism, and supporting her career doesn't require everyone to agree with every decision she makes publicly. Both things can be true at the same time. At the same time, Claressa has also faced criticism for comments directed toward other Black women, including remarks about their appearance. So I don't understand why being a successful boxer should automatically mean that every other aspect of her public behavior has to be ignored. A more reasonable argument would simply be that people should support her career and recognize what she has accomplished. I could understand that position. But when the conversation shifts into suggesting that everyone criticizing her is the problem, or that the situation involving Papoose and Remy is completely off limits, that's where I have to disagree. The relationship became a public topic because the people involved discussed it publicly themselves. Once personal matters are repeatedly brought into interviews, social media, and public conversations, it's unrealistic to expect the audience to completely ignore them. Remy has largely appeared to be trying to move forward, while Claressa has continued to reference or address aspects of the situation publicly. Naturally, when one person responds publicly, the other person's response becomes part of the conversation as well. You can't repeatedly discuss something in public and then act surprised when people react to it. None of that takes away from Claressa's accomplishments as an athlete. She was already a highly accomplished boxer long before this relationship became part of the public conversation. But recognizing those achievements doesn't mean every criticism of her is automatically unfair. People should be able to acknowledge her success while still discussing her public statements and actions. Now, let's look at what Claressa herself has posted, because this is where the larger argument becomes even more interesting.
A major part of the recent discussion has involved her Atlanta fight and the conversation surrounding ticket sales. Leading up to the event, people were closely watching the available ticket information, and there was a lot of debate about whether the venue had actually sold out. By the day before the fight, it was clear that tickets had been distributed and that there was significant interest in the event. However, based on what was publicly visible at the time, the venue was still showing available seats. That doesn't tell us exactly how many tickets were purchased, given away, or distributed through different channels, so it's important not to pretend we know the complete numbers without official figures. What people could observe publicly, however, was that the venue did not appear to be completely sold out beforehand. There was certainly a crowd inside, and the event clearly attracted attention, but that's different from claiming that Claressa personally filled the entire venue by herself. And apparently, Claressa has a very different view of the situation. Someone on X posted a comparison suggesting that Claressa sold out Atlanta without Jake Paul, without Netflix, without being on an undercard, without a PED-related controversy, and without losing multiple times to the same opponent. Claressa reposted the comparison and added a comment emphasizing the PED reference. That response immediately caught people's attention because some viewers felt the wording echoed language that had previously appeared in conversations involving Remy and Juge. Whether that was intentional or simply a coincidence is impossible to know, but it does contribute to the perception that references from the broader controversy sometimes make their will into Claressa's own public messaging.
The bigger issue, though, is the claim that Claressa alone sold out Atlanta. That doesn't necessarily tell the complete story. The event had promotional support, and Zeus was involved in promoting the card. There were also other personalities and fighters connected to the event who had their own audiences. So it would be more accurate to recognize that the event's attendance could have been influenced by multiple factors, rather than presenting it as though Claressa walked into Atlanta completely on her own and single-handedly filled the building. At the end of the day, Claressa deserves credit for attracting attention to her fight and for continuing to build her career. But when discussing ticket sales and event success, the strongest argument is always going to be based on verified numbers, rather than assumptions or social media comparisons. At the same time, this is exactly the kind of reaction I expected to see once the fight was over. Claressa won, and almost immediately the conversation shifted toward the idea that she was the main reason the tickets move. But before we accept that entire narrative, I think it's fair to look at the bigger picture. The post being discussed appeared online early the following morning, and Claressa was already back on social media, reposting comments, responding to people, and continuing the same kind of online activity we've seen from her before. And that's important because this isn't happening in isolation. When Alicia Baumgardner had her own fight, Claressa publicly criticized her afterward, including questioning the level of the competition. Alicia had gone through a difficult matchup and still came away with the victory, so naturally some people felt she deserved to enjoy that moment without being immediately pulled into another debate.
That comparison is worth mentioning because the reaction surrounding Claressa's own victory has been very different.
Going into the fight, many people already expected Claressa to win, so while the celebration was completely understandable, some viewers felt the reaction afterward was bigger than what they expected, considering how heavily favored she was beforehand. And that's where the social media conversation comes back into play. Even when someone simply reposts another person's comment, they're still choosing to participate in the discussion. Claressa has consistently remained active online, responding to criticism, addressing other people, and giving her own opinions on situations surrounding her. So when people argue that everyone should completely separate her boxing career from everything else she does publicly, I think there's a reasonable counterargument. Claressa and Papoose have made their relationship part of the public conversation on multiple occasions. They've discussed aspects of their situation publicly, appeared together publicly, and responded to the ongoing attention surrounding them. Because of that, it's difficult to expect the audience to completely ignore that part of the story. There have also been public comments in music that people have interpreted as being directed toward Remy. Whether every interpretation is accurate is another question, but once those things are placed into the public space, people are naturally going to discuss them. That's simply how public commentary works. And if someone decides to change their opinion about Claressa, that's completely their right. People are allowed to reconsider their views, soften their criticism, or decide they want to focus more heavily on her accomplishments as an athlete. But changing your own opinion doesn't automatically mean everyone else has to change theirs. People can acknowledge Claressa's achievements while still criticizing things they believe she has done publicly. Those two positions can exist at the same time.
Now let's talk about what happened after the fight, because there was another detail that caught people's attention. After the event, Claressa went out to celebrate, and some viewers noticed similarities between her outfit and an outfit Remy had previously worn. Now, I'm not saying that proves anything. Clothing can look similar, different people can wear the same styles, and sometimes a comparison gets exaggerated simply because two people are already involved in a public controversy. But that's exactly why people started talking about it. The comparison centered largely around the pants and the overall aesthetic. Some viewers felt Claressa's look resembled an earlier style associated with Remy, while others simply saw it as a common fashion choice. Either way, the comparison became another talking point online. And this brings us to the bigger issue. When two people are already involved in a highly publicized situation, almost everything they do starts getting analyzed. A post, an outfit, a song, an interview, or even a simple comment can suddenly become part of the larger narrative. That's why it's important not to automatically assume that every similarity is intentional. At the same time, it's also understandable why people notice these things when the same names have been connected to the controversy for so long. But here's where I think the conversation needs some balance. Claressa deserves credit for what she has accomplished in boxing. She's an accomplished athlete, an Olympian, and someone who has built a major career through years of training and competition. Nobody needs to take that away from her. The criticism is about something different. If a public figure spends a significant amount of time online discussing other people, responding to criticism, addressing controversies, or getting involved in public arguments, then people are naturally going to react to that behavior. That's not necessarily an attack on their professional achievements. It's simply commentary on what they're choosing to put into the public conversation. And honestly, I think that's the distinction that keeps getting lost.
If Claressa focused almost entirely on boxing, her training, her victories, and her career, there would probably be far less material for people to debate about her personal life. But when she responds to other people, addresses controversies, participates in online exchanges, or makes comments that viewers interpret as indirect shots, those moments are naturally going to receive attention. Whether someone thinks that attention is fair or unfair is a completely separate debate, but it doesn't make everyone who discusses those moments automatically a hater. At the end of the day, Claressa can celebrate her victories, promote her career, and be proud of everything she's accomplished. And people can still question or criticize the things she chooses to say and do publicly. Both things can be true at the same time. So instead of turning the conversation into support Claressa or you're against her, maybe the better approach is to recognize the full picture. Celebrate the athlete. Discuss the public controversy separately. And most importantly, don't assume that every online theory or fashion comparison is automatically proof of something deeper. Because when social media gets involved, sometimes a simple coincidence becomes a storyline before anyone has actually established what happened. Right now, Claressa is riding a major wave of attention because her fight kept her in the spotlight for an entire week. Clearly, that attention has become a significant part of the moment surrounding her, and there is nothing wrong with enjoying a victory and celebrating a major accomplishment. But once the fight is over and Papoose eventually returns to New York, I would not be surprised if the attention starts shifting again and another controversy takes center stage.
That is simply the pattern some people believe they have been seeing over the past few years.
Claressa previously fought Franchon back in February. At that time, I wasn't consistently covering every development, so I wasn't following everything in real time. But I remember watching the fight afterwards, seeing Claressa celebrate the victory, and then seeing some of the interviews where she discussed Franchon. After that, there seemed to be a relatively quiet period. It wasn't completely silent, but there was definitely a noticeable slowdown. She wasn't constantly doing interviews, going live, or inserting herself into every conversation. Eventually, though, the cycle appeared to start again, one controversy after another, more live streams, more statements, more responses, and more conversations surrounding her. That's why I believe this current wave of attention will eventually cool down as well. When someone becomes accustomed to receiving constant attention and praise, that excitement can only last for so long. And to be completely fair, Claressa won her fight. Nobody can take that accomplishment away from her. Regardless of how anyone personally viewed the matchup, the official result is what matters. Claressa won, so congratulations are absolutely appropriate. But winning a boxing match doesn't automatically mean every other aspect of someone's public image has suddenly changed. That's where I get confused. Are we really supposed to believe that Claressa is suddenly more likable simply because she added another victory to her record? Especially after hearing people criticize her so heavily before, I think it's fair to question whether one win should completely change the way everyone views her.
Personally, I can recognize Claressa's accomplishments as a boxer while still disagreeing with certain things she says or does publicly. Those two opinions can exist at the same time. You can respect someone's talent, dedication, and achievements without automatically supporting every part of their public behavior. And from my perspective, some of Claressa's public interactions have come across as unnecessarily confrontational, and that's something I personally find difficult to overlook simply because she is a successful athlete. So yes, celebrate the victory, give her credit for what she accomplished in the ring, but let's also keep the same energy when it comes to evaluating everything else. A boxing victory deserves recognition, but it doesn't require everyone to suddenly change their opinion about the person outside.